Yeah, I didn't think you liked it, did you?
You guys good?
Yes, sir. All right.
Let's go.
Good.
Of the young guys, not the young guys, the new transfers, anybody stand out, anybody you really like that come in, or your second day looking at them?
Yeah, I mean, it's really hard to say. It'd be hard for me to name somebody right now. I mean, it's been 2 days, and so, these first 2 days, everybody's amped up, everybody's excited. I mean, all of them have done good things, but for me to point one guy out over another right now would probably be disingenuous a little bit. But they're all doing a great job, and they're all trying to learn and soak up what we're doing on defense. So I'm happy with what they've all done collectively.
We talked to Armani Gainer about a month ago. He told us he came here because of the jack position. He said he watched some of Noah Taylor and could see himself being sort of a version of that, and that would be his avenue to the NFL. So what have you seen from him, not just the physical stuff, but learning the position and just approaching it like a guy who's trying to get to the league?
Yeah, number one, he's played a lot of football. And so, if you go back to his days at Florida State, he was very productive as a linebacker. I think this past year he was their probably all-time tackle leader for anybody on the team, which means you've played a lot. He's played special teams, so he's just got a lot of football IQ built in. He understands the game. He understands what we're trying to do. I love his effort. He's a violent football player. And he's a guy that you can tell he loves the game, so he works at it. And again, it'll be a work in progress because he's never played the position. But I think his body type is built for it. And I think his mentality is definitely built for it. And we need him to be able to rush the passer. So I think he's going to be a really, really good addition. In the first 2 days, he is not disappointed at all.
Is Rucker going to work just at jack, or is he also going to rotate like he did last year?
Yeah, right now he is an exclusive jack, knowing that at any moment he could go back and switch and play the other side at the power in spot, because he's just that kind of football player. He's very versatile. He can do that. He can do either one. But right now we're exclusively teaching him jack. We want to build up a room of outside linebackers or jacks that we have, number one, great competition, and number two, we have guys that, production-wise, they bring a lot to the table. So the room's deeper than it's been, and we got a lot of young guys. But that's the final goal, right? Making sure that we build that room and get some depth in that room, and they're all productive.
What's the biggest change that you anticipate, or at least hope for, in this defense in year two?
Production, consistent production. I feel really good about the direction everything's headed. Obviously, there was a lot of inconsistencies last year. I thought we were a better defense at the end of the year than we were at the beginning. I don't think there's any question. I feel like when we stepped out here day one in practice, we were light years, and obviously we should be, but we were light years ahead of where we were last year. Just from a comfort level, just from a guys understanding the standard and everybody across the board. And we've made it very clear to guys right now. I don't care how many games you've started. I don't care how many games you've played. If you're not productive in every one of these practices, you will be watching. And that is the message, and that's where we're going with it. So the standard is high, the urgency is high, and they're going to have to produce. And we as coaches are going to have to coach better, and we're going to have to produce. From me all the way down. So it's a collective effort. We all got to own the ugly parts of what we presented last year, and my job is to fix it, and it will get fixed.
Gene, along those lines, Mac was talking to us last week, and he was talking about being more aggressive on defense. It almost sounded like sort of a shift in mentality, maybe. Is that how it's manifesting itself sort of here early in the spring? Is the urgency and the accountability,
yes,
the standards you're talking about?
Yeah, and I think there's some things that, defensively we can do better, things that I can do better. Obviously the urgency we just talked about. We've made that very clear yesterday, or Sunday's practice and today's practice. But there's things that we can do as a coaching staff much better than collectively we did last year. So our aim is to be a more aggressive defense, call it more aggressive. And what does that mean? It means that we got to play better on the perimeter right now in coverage. We got to be more physical at the linebacker spot, and we got to get more production out of the front four. And that's all the way across the board. But we can help them as coaches. We have to do a better job coaching. But I think some things that we'll do differently and some things that we'll implement will help our defense.
Said when you come into the room that effort and physicality is written on the board, maybe at all times. I don't know if you keep that up there, bookmarked or something. Like, that's part of this too, I guess, right?
It is, and those are two things that are non-negotiables. We call them non-negotiable, right? We can't turn on the film and watch you not give maximum effort, and then you expect us to put you out there. So that's not going to happen. And so, and the second piece of this is a grown man's game, and it's all about physicality, right? So, there's no such thing as a cover corner. The corner's got to be physical. There's no such thing of a cover safety or a half-field safety. Everybody in the defense has got to be physical from the front all the way to the back. So effort and physicality are non-negotiables. We'll measure them every day. And if those two things aren't happening at every position, it's going to be hard to get on the field.
Mac mentioned last week something about being maybe a little bit more aggressive in coverage, like some press coverages and stuff. Is that contingent on getting something up front in order to allow you to do that, be more comfortable doing it? Or is it just something you're going to go ahead and implement and see what happens?
Well, they all work together. The coverage and the fronts all work together, right? So being able to mix up those things in terms of press coverage, playing off coverage, and then also playing some coverages where we're not always in a man-to-man world and giving the corners some relief, right? So we're trying to do all those things, but they all tie in together. The defensive line in the front and the rush ties in with what we can do back there, and what we can do back there dictates a lot of the things that we can do up front. Example being, if we feel really good about a cover group, then you can be more aggressive up front because you have more one-on-ones and you feel good about that, right? So it's just a mixture of all of it. But we are challenging routes at the line of scrimmage as a general rule.
That's just a totally shift in mindset, I guess. For the
No,
defense.
it's not a total shift in mindset. It was a necessity last year that we had to go to because we were having some issues. So we have to do what our players can do. The mindset is always challenging routes.
I should have said approach.
Yes, but again, whether you say approach or whatnot, we've always wanted to be up and aggressive and pressing on most things. And we've always wanted to do that, but your ability and your production dictates whether you can or you can't. And so when you can't, then what's the other option? It's to back off, right? So that's kind of where we were last year. But our mindset is everybody challenging everything at the line of scrimmage, including the corners. That's where we start, and then we kind of give them some relief from there.
What does standard over feelings mean to you?
Standard over feelings is what we talk about, that when you walk into the meeting room, when you walk out onto the field, anything you do in the football building, when you're in the weight room, it's not about how you feel. It's about a standard that you have to live up to. So the standards override your feelings, because there's a lot of times that we all come to work every day and we don't feel like it. It doesn't matter. This is the standard. So it's true with players, it's true with coaches. So we just simply say it's standard over feelings. So this is the standard. We don't care whether you feel like it that day or not. This is what we expect. And if you can't live up to the standards, again, then again, you're going to do a lot of watching. So we're just trying to get that mindset built that this is a standard. We did not live up to it last year, any of us, coaches or players, right? And that's what we got to do.
Is that from you, and is that new this year?
That's from me. That's from me, and that's pretty much a staple in everything that we do when they walk into the building.
Is that a new concept for this season, though? Like kind of like a new phrase you guys are?
No, I've used it a lot.
Okay.
You mentioned coaching better, need to coach better, and maybe some self-reflection, not just you, but evaluating your coaching staff. What's that like when you're evaluating your defensive coaches as the coordinator?
I think we all have to take a real good look at ourselves, including me, and we have to be real, right? You have to assess yourself in a real perspective. The mindset of humans is to guard yourself, and not a lot of times it's hard for people to accept responsibility, right? But this is a production-based business, and it's real simple. You either own it or you don't. So I think we all had to really look at ourselves and own what our part was when we played poorly and we played bad. What was our part? And I'm okay with doing that, right? So everybody else had to be okay with doing it. So we pointed that out very directly. We pointed out very pointedly that when this wasn't happening, this was a player issue, this is a coaching issue. Sometimes it's one or the other, sometimes it's both, and it's our job to get it fixed. So that was the off-season study. Again, standards over field. We don't care how you feel. We don't care how you feel about, what we say you have to get better, what you didn't do well as a coach, starting with me. We don't care how you feel. We only care about the standard of it being better than it was. And that's how we've lived with it. So that's why I feel very good about the direction everything's heading. Us being a better coaching staff and us playing better on defense all the way around.
Thank you, G.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.